Hi, it's Matt Bisogno here again, and in this video I want to introduce you to a couple of new features in Geegeez Gold. The first of them will be apparent to you as soon as you log into any race card. I'm going to go to the Stewards Cup tomorrow as I'm recording this, and our dear old coloured icons, you can see, have now gone grayscale. The reason we've done this is a couple of things. First of all, I thought that the original icons, though we'd all got very fond of them and familiar with them, they looked a bit dated and, to be honest, probably not quite professional enough. But also, importantly, the amount of colour on the page I felt was detracting from certain important elements, like the horse silks, the names of the horses, and also the numbers in the angle boxes. So we've gone to this grayscale. Everything's still in the same place. Everything still works exactly the same. So it's just an icon design change. And now I think the page just pops a little bit more. There's a greater clarity around the respective components. We're all familiar with the old style, but soon enough we'll get used to these, I'm sure of it. And I hope that in a few weeks' time you'll all agree with me that they are better than what went before. Okay, so that's a purely cosmetic change, really, albeit a very striking one if you're used to the cards. The other new change is this guy here in the tabbing system, the profiler. Now, profiler is, as the name suggests, a means of profiling a horse or a jockey or a trainer or a sire on any number of these variables, from going distance, class, through headgear, weight, trainer and jockey, day since last run, and some course configuration stuff at the bottom. You can open all of them by clicking the plus button and close all of them by clicking the minus button, and you can filter the data within the overall profile by today's race conditions. So, for instance, in this example, it's a 6 furlong race. So if I click the distance button, you'll recognize this block from full form. If I click the distance button, then all of the data in here will now be relevant only to 6 furlong races. So let's open it up, and you can see that, for instance, in the distance box you can only see 6 furlongs, and there are 36 runs, and everything else should sum up to 36 up and down the card. You will also see that we highlight the today's conditions. So the light blue with the red edging are today's conditions. This is a 16 plus runner field. Summer Hand is carrying between 9, 8 and 10 stone, and so on. His performance on very undulating, very sharp tracks, good place record, albeit on very small sample size. So you get the idea there. Obviously, with a horse with very little form in the book, it's not going to add a huge amount of value, but with some of the horses that have run 20, 30, 40 times, then you can start to build up a picture of their optimal conditions, and that's really the idea with the profiler. So if I just take that distance one off, you can actually see that Summergand is almost exclusively run at 6 furlongs. So that is looking at horse form through the profiler. Now, I think the real value of profiler is looking at the bigger data sets that come with jockeys, trainers and sires. Let's have a look at a trainer. I'm going to go to a sprint handicap, and I'm going to look at Paul Midgley, if I'm in the right race. There he is. And he's got a runner here at Pontefract today. Excuse me. Now, I just need to put it on the trainer. I need to remember to do this. I need to put it on the trainer icon rather than the horse one. I was wondering why there was very little form there. There we go, that's more like it. So if we scroll down to trainer, we can see that Paul Midgley in the last, this is on the last 5 years, you see there. Oops. And if we scroll down to the trainer, you can see that he's had, let's say, 1,700 runners with a strike rate of 10% in the last 5 years, and that's kind of my baseline is 10%. So I'm looking for scenarios where Midgley is bettering 10%, and we can see that on fast ground he has a better record, and all weather and heavy. I mean, the small sample size for heavy, but on the all weather particularly, it's not really Midgley's stamping ground. Quite interesting if we look at, I mean, obviously Paul Midgley is known as a trainer of sprinters, but I had no idea that it was quite as stark, quite as stark a distinction in his training methods or the horses that he selects as it actually is. We can see that of those sort of 1,700 runners, he's had kind of 20 that have raced at a mile or further, and all of the rest have raced at 7 furlongs or shorter, and in fact more than 1,500 of the 1,669 have raced at between 5 and 6 furlongs, and even within that we can see that the looking at both the win and the each way, so the place elements as well, strike rates, ignoring these 22 runners at 5.5, but 5 furlongs win percent 11, 6 furlongs 8.5%, 5 furlongs each way percent 30.5%, 6 furlongs 24.5%, and the 7 furlongs less good as well. So Midgley really is a trainer of 5 furlong horses. That's his métier, and this is this particular race is a 6 furlong race, as highlighted by this bar. But that's, so for instance, you may have known that already, but that is a new, that's something I didn't know, that Midgley is a trainer of 5 furlong horses. I knew he was a trainer of sprinters, but I didn't know he was a trainer of 5 furlong horses. And also this turf versus all weather. So, you know, you could kind of put a profile together, 5 furlong races on turf, and start to build a profile around that. And we can see that class 3, 5 and 6, I mean 4 is not terrible either, but basically higher class races are generally where Midgley, lower class races where Midgley cuts his teeth. The course stuff is interesting potentially, but not at this point. What I am interested in, however, one thing you can do is you can click on any of these boxes to close them up and tidy things up a little bit. I'm quite interested in the course configuration elements, because not necessarily in this case, but quite often we can find a relationship between a trainer's training method, or perhaps the facilities they have available to train on, and the race courses where they perform well. And in the case of Midgley, I don't really know what to make of this direction stuff. It feels like it should be irrelevant, but the left-handed tracks have fared less well than right-handed, and maybe Midgley trains on a right-handed gallop. I honestly don't know, and I wouldn't want to infer too much into that. But it is, you know, on a meaningful sample size, there's quite a significant disparity there. The track profiles are always interesting to me, and again, the undulating tracks, he's fared better, both in win and place strike rates, so that's interesting. Nothing really in the data here. An uphill finish, sharp bends, nothing really there either, but this is probably not the best example to to tease out something from the course configuration. But these 4 components at the bottom are certainly something that is of interest to me in relation to trainer and sire. Let's come on to sire now. I'm going to choose a race at Goodwood today. Not quite arbitrarily chosen, but very nearly. And I want to look at the sire of the 7 horse, which is Siuni. And here we have Siuni's, who is an excellent sire, by the way, top class. These are his 5-year data. The first thing to do is to kind of get a view on his overall strike rate. Excuse me. And what I'll do to do that is I'll actually just quickly go to full form, sire. Siuni is this one. And we can see that his overall strike rate is about 14%. I just put that on the 5-year box there. Yeah, 14%, so that's fine. So let's go back to the profiler now. So 14% is our benchmark here. So we're looking for performance measures above that, and we can see, so if we look at the going, for example, we can see that on fast ground, I mean, ignoring the sort of firm ground where there's only 5 in the sample, we can see that on good or good to firm is 19, 14 and a half, and kind of dwindling down thereafter. On the all-weather, again, sample size, you've got to be careful with the sample sizes, but here we're looking at kind of around about, maybe slightly above the 14% mark, but certainly soft ground I'd be apprehensive. The wind strike rate is very low. The place strike rate is a good bit lower as well. So Siuni's on top of the ground. There's a little angle that personally I didn't know about before recording this video right now. Distance, again, is an interesting factor, and we can see that it's probably not too much in that, actually. A mile and a half, small sample size, but done pretty well over a trip. So Siuni's quite a new sire to the ranks, probably 5 or 6 years in now, I guess. But it'll be interesting to see how, as his younger stock age and some of them step up in trip, how these numbers develop. But I mean, you wouldn't be put off a Siuni going over a trip, particularly if there was stamina on the dam side as well. So that's interesting. Again, we can look at trainers. I always think that some trainers have if they've done well with it, in fact, I don't think this, I know it from the trainers that I've worked with, that we syndicate horses with. If they've done well with a sire, they are predisposed to find juveniles or stores or whatever by that sire. It's if you've had success, you try to replicate that success. It makes absolute sense. So there will be a selection bias to some degree in the trainers that have done well with a given sire, but that's well worth looking into, trainer-sire combinations. Jockey I wouldn't be that kind of into, but again, we've got our course configuration elements, and we can see that, for instance, it's a small sample size here, but very undulating courses haven't really done it for Siuni's hitherto. I wouldn't be hanging my hat on that stat, but it is performance is notably below the other sort of profiles, and very sharp tracks likewise are hitting a little bit below, but again, small sample, and a couple of winners, and in fact one winner, and this figure would be in there. So again, you've got to be careful with sample size. So that's the profiler. It's a fairly straightforward tool. You can do quite a bit in relation to today's race conditions by selecting various things up here. So for instance, I could look at just flat races, and obviously I've lost the all-weather going descriptions there, and any data relating to all-weather in the other profile components. So you can quickly reduce the overall profile to a specific profile in relation to today's race. So for instance, if I did flat and this class and distance class 4 6 furlongs, we've now got, you can see that there are 32 runners in that profile, and if we look at those that have run on good or good to firm ground, we can see that that's where the winners came, which is consistent, as we know, with Siuni's overall profile. You can see that Beckett has had one of those 2 winners, his only Siuni, so that's quite interesting, albeit in a throwaway sort of way. I don't think I want to say too much more. Actually, it's a tool to play with. One element that I do think is important. I think the profiler may have, unless you're looking at a horse with a lot of form, I think the profiler will have limited utility from a specific horse perspective. I think its real value is when you're looking at bigger data sets with jockeys, trainers and sires. And I hope you'll have some fun with it, and I hope it will add some insight to your research. Remember, Midgley is a 5 furlong trainer, and Siunis don't get on so well on soft ground. So there's 2 quick takeaways from this video. I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun with it. I hope you enjoy it. And this is Matt Bisogno saying thank you very much for watching and for being a Geegeez Gold subscriber, and goodbye for now.